The Blast from Our Past Network.
Lock your doors, close your windows, turn out your lights, for chills and thrills await you. It's time for Podcasting After Dark with your hosts, Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer. Stay with a friend, say your prayers as grisly ghouls close in to seal your doom, and enjoy this bonus episode of Podcasting After Dark.
Hey everybody, co-host Corey here with another bonus mini review. I just got out of seeing the new Toxic Avenger remake that just came out, even though it was made back in 2023. The one with Peter Dinklage and Elijah Wood and Taylor Page and Jacob Tremblay. And I gotta say, guys and gals, this one was a lot of fun. I'm going to keep this kind of brief and sort of, spoiler-free as possible because, to be honest with you, Zach and I have been toying with the idea of covering remakes on the show, but covering the original versus the remake, breaking down one movie in the month and then the other movie, the remake, later in the month. Been wanting to do that with Dawn of the Dead, original versus remake, and, other ones. But I think this one might be the best one to start with. So I'm not going to dive too much into the story and stuff, but I want this to be out there because I want everyone to go and see the new Toxic Avenger in the theater because, my God, they don't make movies like this anymore. At least they don't make them and they don't come out in the theater much anymore. So please go and support it. I give it a thumbs up, obviously, but I'll get into it a little bit more. A little bit of my background with the franchise. Not going to lie to you, I wasn't the biggest Troma fan growing up. I saw the original Toxic Avenger probably maybe twice, probably back in like high school or something like that. So, in the 90s. So it's been a while. I rewatched it last night before watching this one to kind of refamiliarize myself with it. And I got to admit, I do love it more as an adult than I did as a kid because I think I understand the jokes and stuff a little bit more. But my fandom with the Toxic Avenger franchise lies mostly with the Toxic Crusaders. I love that cartoon. I've actually, since it came out on Blu-ray, I've watched it like multiple times. I think it's a fantastic show. I am just chomping at the bit for that new video game that's supposed to be coming out later this year. It's like a, side scroller, beat 'em up, kind of like a Streets of Rage type of game. But it's based on the Toxic Crusaders franchise, not necessarily the Toxic Avenger franchise. So all that being said, you kind of know where I stand when it comes to the Toxic Avenger. This movie is completely different than the original Toxic Avenger. And that's fine. Like, I don't like remakes to be like a beat for beat, shot for shot. I'm looking at you, Gus Van Sant Psycho remake. It's like, what the hell is the point of that? I want to see something different. I want to see, a completely different take on it. This movie could almost exist side by side with the original. Like, this could almost be like in the same universe as the original. And who knows, maybe it is. There's nothing saying that it isn't. But just I want remakes to be different enough to warrant their existence. Kind of like John Carpenter's The Thing versus The Thing from Another Planet. I feel the same way about songs. I like it when a female vocalist will remake, a male vocalist, song, stuff like that. Like, just do it different. Don't just do it the same. So this movie's very different. And I mean, story-wise, setup-wise, and everything. Obviously, it's going to have your social commentary in it. Trauma movies usually do, and they're obviously like tongue-in-cheek and everything like that, but it's definitely there. Environmentalism, obviously, jabs at the medical insurance industry and everything like that. I mean, it's all very front and center with the message that it's trying to, give. But, right out of the gate, Peter Dinklage is fantastic as he's not Melvin, but his name is Winston. And he becomes Toxic. But the thing is, he doesn't play Toxic Crusader. That is Luisa Guerreiro. She's actually the performer that does like all the body work and everything. He just kind of does the voiceover. But you do get a good chunk of Peter Dinklage like at the beginning. The movie's like an hour and 40 minutes. I'd say you got a good solid 25-ish minutes of Peter Dinklage, and he's actually doing great. He's really turning in a great performance. I really feel for his character and his plight and everything like that. He is actually like a stepfather to a kid and the kid's mom has passed, so he's like really trying to step up. There's some really kind of heavy stuff going on, and they treat it well. They don't like shit on the heavy concepts. They're there, they don't make jokes out of the heavy concepts. And I think that's what really works about this movie. You really do feel his plight, the plight of Winston, and his little microscopic family, essentially. It's just him and his stepson. You also meet another character, JJ Dougherty, played by Taylor Page. She's a lot of fun in this movie. I do wish her character was a smidge more fleshed out. I also wish the villains were a smidge more fleshed out. Kevin Bacon's character, Elijah Wood's character, they play brothers. You get enough, and everything. But like at an hour and 40 minutes, I kind of wish I knew a little bit more. But it's okay because the action in this movie is a lot of fun. And honestly, that's what you're coming to see the movie for. The violence is great. The action is great. This little Tromaville, it's not Tromaville, it's like Saint Roma. And then they kind of black out the S and it becomes Trauma. There's a lot of little nods to the original series in this. Like, for example, the news reporters, their background is that old, like, New York set painting that they would always put the Lloyd Kaufman, name in front of and everything. Like, that's the background. And I'm like, okay, cool, stuff like that. But the violence, like I'm saying, let's go back to the violence. That's what you're here for. And it definitely delivers. The Toxic Avenger definitely delivers on that front. There's a lot of gore to it. It's obviously some of it's a little CGI-ish, but for the most part, it's practical. So don't go poo-pooing on it or anything like that. It's a lot of fun. I love the gore. I love like sort of the violent set pieces that they kind of do. The villains in the movie are what you expect from a trauma film. They're very eccentric. They're very colorful. Kind of would like to have seen even more of them, but it definitely has more than the original Toxic Avenger does. There's more violence than the original. The body count is a lot higher. I will say where it lacks is the nudity, unfortunately. There's like a concert scene where they inserted some women flashing. So it's like, okay, I get it. They worked it in, they worked the nudity in, but if it's going to be a true sort of trauma film, I was kind of expecting a little bit more. Well, I was wanting a little bit more. I kind of wasn't expecting any more. But I'm very happy with what I got. I think this is definitely worth, seeing in the theater, supporting the film with your money so we can maybe get more, maybe get a sequel to it. The way Toxic Avenger looks, I think they did a great job with his design. They do some fun stuff with his he has an eyeball that's almost like a camera, and they do some fun stuff with that, and I enjoy that. The jokes are actually pretty good. I found myself laughing in the theater by myself because there was no one else there at the time, but I found myself laughing out loud to it and just having a great time throughout, and it was really well paced too. I'm not going to lie to you. It did not feel like an hour and 40 minutes. It really went by quickly, and it was a lot of fun. There was no slow parts. There was no parts where I'm like, watching him thinking, okay, next time I watch this, I'm probably going to, fast forward through that or whatever, because like ultimately I was actually felt connected to the character of Toxic Avenger. I mean, probably more so than the original. And that's through Peter Dinklage and the time we actually get to spend with him he's not in the suit, but before he becomes the Toxic Avenger. And like I said, he does a great job, and that really anchors the character to the audience. And I think it was necessary. All of it was necessary, and really helped propel the story through the rest of the movie. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Guys and gals, if you grew up with Toxic Avenger, or if you just grew up with Toxic Crusaders like me, like that's, again, that's my sort of preferred version of Toxie. I think this still kind of like sits right next to both of those, that movie and that TV series. I think it's a great sort of evolution of the character. I think it's a great evolution of the franchise, and I do hope this becomes a franchise moving forward. It feels like a trauma film, made in 2023. I know this is 2025, but it was made in 2023. It really does feel like a trauma film in modern days, like even to the point where like one of the fighting's, like the little action-y set pieces is like, an overgrown abandoned warehouse that you find in New Jersey. And it's like, I'm sure this movie had the budget to film somewhere else, but the fact that they filmed it there, that's what makes it like the DNA of the original trauma films, like just, it feels like it's there. Because of budget constraints, they couldn't really film and they had to film on the cheap back in the day. So even though this movie has a budget, it has a good look to it as well. I really enjoyed the way it looked, but even though it has a budget, it weirdly feels like a low budget movie, if that makes sense, but in all the best ways. Not in any kind of cheap way, not in any kind of, we're trying to cut corners. Because even when they're filming at, an abandoned overgrown warehouse, like, it still looks good. They put the money into the cinematography and everything like that. The costume looks great. The gore looks great. There's some surprises. There's some fun stuff. Even Elijah Wood's like makeup and everything he's doing looks great. Kevin Bacon isn't like phoning it in or anything. You can tell like he's having a good time with it. Again, I do wish I'd seen maybe a little bit more of his character, maybe even have him being a little bit more over the top. And my comparison to that is the way Dennis Quaid played sort of the villain in The Substance. I almost wish Kevin Spacey played the villain in this with that same level of just bizarre energy. That's just like a nitpicky thing. No big deal. Like it's still a good time. The villains are still doing villainous things, and they're still the bad guys, and you still want to see them get their comeuppance and everything. And go support this one in the theaters. I've heard that they are, giving a portion of the proceeds to like helping out people with like medical debt or something like that. I mean, good Lord. What a world we live in, guys and gals, that's necessary. But yeah, go see The Toxic Avenger. Even if you love the original and if you hate remakes, I think this is different enough that it'll be worth your time, and I think you're gonna have a good time with it. If anything, go see it for the gore. So yeah. Look for Zach and I to cover Toxic Avenger, the OG one, the 1984 one, and then covering this one sort of back to back with like proper reviews and breakdowns. I want to do them like in the same month. I want to do them as like, back to back reviews so we can kind of like look at them as an original versus a remake. So, look for that in the future. Don't know when that's coming, but once this comes out on 4K, then we can start talking about, scheduling that. But I think that'll be a lot of fun. So yeah, anyways, guys and gals, leave a comment on social media or on Spotify, wherever you can comment, on Patreon, and let me know if you saw it. Let me know what you think, and, let me know what you think compared to the original. And as always, we'll catch you on the toxic side.
Be sure to subscribe to Podcasting After Dark on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. You can support the show by joining our Patreon page, picking up a t-shirt from our merch store, or leaving us a 5-star review. Follow us on Instagram at Podcasting After Dark. All links can be found on our website at www.podcastingafterdark.com. And join us next time for another cult movie or TV show review with Corey Stevenson and Zach Schaefer.